Hello and welcome to another episode of DeHaan on Fire, brought to you by FireWise Learning Academy. DeHaan on Fire is a YouTube channel and podcast featuring education, commentary, and conversation with Dr. John DeHaan and colleagues and friends. I'm your host, Tim Davis. The wildland fire situation in California has necessitated utility companies to turn off power to large groups of cities, creating blackout conditions. And these blackout conditions create new things to be considered when investigating fires. Let's hear some of Dr. DeHaan's experiences of these blackouts as a resident of Northern California himself, and also some advice from him on how the considerations of a fire investigation change in a blackout situation. DeHaan on Fire contains discussion and video not suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Dr. DeHaan, you live in Northern California and have been affected by the blackouts that have been put in place during the wildfire seasons and events recently. How do the considerations of a fire investigation change in a situation where the fires happen during a blackout?
Yes, that's a recent change to our fire conditions here in California. Every year we face the same issue of high temperatures, high wind speeds, low humidities, particularly in the September, October range of months, and that's routine across all of California. But in the last year or so, power companies have been punished for allowing electrical equipment to get into the state or contribute to the ignition of huge wildland fires. And we've had massive fires and with lots of fire deaths and things like that, taking out entire towns and large portions of housing and things like that as a result of these uncontrollable fires. So the power companies have decided to actually turn off the power to particular danger-prone areas, and that's been kind of a mixed success. But it certainly has changed the face of fire investigation, because the cessation of electrical power does remove a significant number of potential ignition sources, but it also, human behavior in response to those conditions being what it is, actually introduces new ones that the investigators have to be aware of. One is, we all know that when power is restored or interrupted in some cases, you can get a pulse of higher voltage, higher than normal voltage, I should say, and that can cause damage to electrical equipment and actually cause electrical failures and fires inside, especially energized equipment like televisions and radios and things like that. And so that's one risk, and I was always in the habit of, asking neighbors whether there was any observed pulses of electrical current around the same time as the reported fire in a neighbor's structure, for instance. Another issue, of course, is how do you, as a homeowner, how do you respond to the loss of power? Well, traditionally people would light candles, would light kerosene lamps, use battery-powered equipment, and most of the battery-powered equipment, of course, is pretty safe from a fire causation standpoint, but candles and kerosene lamps are still very common and easily forgotten or easily overturned in windy conditions. If a window fails, for instance, or somebody opens a door, then the candle or the kerosene lamp can get knocked over, especially if there's draperies and things like that around. Near other combustibles, of course, such open flame devices are a problem. With these planned cutoff schemes, a lot of people, including me, have gone out and bought gasoline-powered generators so that they can at least maintain, medical equipment and refrigerators and things like that. Well, that's okay, but then you have the risks of exhaust systems, hot exhaust systems coming in contact with nearby combustibles, especially those loose light things that might get blown onto contact with the operating equipment. You have issues of refueling. Each generator has a warning on it, turn the generator off before you start to fuel it. But a lot of people don't read those warnings, and you're always you're thinking, well, it's safe enough, I can get away with pouring gasoline into this container, despite the fact that there's operating electrical equipment immediately adjacent. And there's always that concern. Another realization that I had that I was surprised at was 6 hours after my power failed, or my power was interrupted here, my backup battery for my household alarm system gave out a warning sign that it was going off service. So I didn't have smoke detectors or fire detectors in the house that were hardwired to that system at all for 3 days. And luckily I still have battery powered smoke detectors and things like that, and CO detectors, which are, many times a lifesaver. But that's what I was relying on for the duration of the cutoff. So there's a lot of hazards associated with electrical equipment. There's also a lot of hazards associated with the substitution of other energy sources during a power blackout, and the investigators have to be aware of that. What happens when the power comes back on, especially if it's only briefly? Is that going to cause problems of electrical equipment that's still connected? Is it going to, is somebody, when the power goes off, do they always remember to turn things off physically? Turn them off, like stoves and room heaters and things like that. And the power comes back on at an unplanned time in the middle of the night, and suddenly the stove is operating, and things like that can cause fires when least expected.
Thanks for watching another episode of DeHaan on Fire, brought to you by FireWise Learning Academy. If you have any questions for Dr. DeHaan, please email them to questions@DeHaanOnFire. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Ring the bell to get notifications of new uploads to the channel, and don't forget to set your devices to receive those updates. For now, signing off for FireWise Learning Academy and DeHaan on Fire, I'm your host, Tim Davis. See you next time.